Commander Vector stood in the command center of his massive warship, watching another planet fall. The holographic display showed Zirian 7 turning from blue to red. Red meant conquered. Red meant victory. Red meant the Krathene Empire had claimed another world. 38 hours, his second officer Thrace reported, pride clear in his voice. Faster than predicted, Commander. Vector clicked his mandibles together in satisfaction. 38 hours to break a civilization of 14 billion people. It was almost too easy. The aliens on Zirian 7 had tried to fight. They always did. They fired their weapons, rallied their soldiers, made brave speeches about freedom and resistance. Then the Krathene plasma cannons opened fire from orbit, and the bravery turned to screaming. After that came the surrender. It always followed the same pattern. 200 worlds now glowed red on the tactical map. 200 different species, 200 unique civilizations, all conquered in just 1 year. The Krathene military machine was unstoppable. Their technology was superior to everyone else in the galaxy. Energy shields that no weapon could penetrate. Plasma rifles that could melt through steel. Warships the size of cities. And the psychic suppressors. Devices that shut down the mental powers most alien species used to communicate and coordinate their defenses. What is our next target? Vector asked. Thrace manipulated the holographic controls, and a small yellow star appeared. A planet the locals call Earth, Commander. It orbits an unremarkable star in the outer spiral arm of the galaxy. Very isolated. The inhabitants are called humans. Vector studied the blue and green planet rotating slowly on the display. It looked peaceful. Beautiful even. Military capabilities? Primitive, Thrace said with obvious contempt. They still use chemical rockets to reach orbit. Their most powerful weapons are nuclear bombs, but they've never used them in space. No energy shields. No plasma weapons. No unified planetary government. They're divided into hundreds of competing nations that spend more time fighting each other than preparing for external threats. Population. 8 billion humans, Commander. Vector did the calculations in his mind. 8 billion primitives with primitive weapons facing the full might of the Krathene Empire. Estimated time for conquest? 6 hours, Thrace replied. And that's being generous. They have nothing that can threaten our shields. Their missiles will bounce off harmlessly. Their aircraft cannot reach orbital altitude. This will be the easiest conquest yet. The hologram of Emperor Zareth materialized above the command console before Vector could respond. The supreme ruler of the Krathene Empire wore ceremonial armor covered in jewels taken from conquered worlds. Each gem represented a different species brought under Krathene control. Commander Vector, the Emperor's voice boomed through the bridge. I have watched your progress with great pleasure. 200 worlds in 1 year. Magnificent. You bring glory to the Empire. Vector bowed deeply. I serve only your will, Divine Emperor. And you serve it well. The Galactic Council trembles when they hear our name. The lesser species hide in fear. They know resistance is futile. Now tell me of our next conquest. A primitive world called Earth, Your Eminence, Vector explained. The inhabitants are technologically backward. Chemical rockets. Nuclear weapons that they're afraid to use. No unified defense. Conquest time is estimated at 6 hours. Emperor Zaretha's eyes gleamed. Excellent. Make it world number 201. Let the galaxy see that no corner of space is safe from the Krathene Empire. Every planet, no matter how distant or primitive, will kneel before us. It will be done, Divine Emperor. The transmission ended and Vector turned to his crew. Navigation set course for Earth. Maximum speed. I want to be in orbit within 2 days. The massive Krathene fleet began moving. 3,000 warships, each one capable of destroying cities with a single blast. They jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the ruins of Zirian 7 behind. The people there would serve as slaves now, mining resources to fuel the Empire's endless expansion. As the fleet traveled through the void of space, Vector reviewed intelligence reports on Earth. The humans seemed unremarkable in every way. They fought primitive wars using bullets and bombs. They struggled to survive on their own planet, dealing with disease and hunger and natural disasters. They hadn't even colonized their own moon permanently. Thrace appeared beside him. Something troubles you, Commander? No, Vector said, though he wasn't entirely certain that was true. I was merely thinking that sometimes conquest is too easy. Where is the glory in defeating an enemy who cannot fight back? Glory comes from serving the Empire, Thrace replied. These humans are just another species to add to our collection. In 6 hours they will surrender. In 6 days they will be forgotten. Vector nodded, but a strange feeling lingered in his chest. He had conquered 200 worlds and every single one had followed the same pattern. First came the warning. Then came the demonstration of power. Then came the fear. And finally came the surrender. He wondered if the humans would follow the same pattern. He wondered if they would beg for mercy like the others. He wondered if they would cry and plead and offer their treasures in exchange for their lives. He would have his answers soon enough. The fleet was approaching the Sol system. What Commander Vector didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that humans were different from every other species the Kratheen had encountered. Humans had spent their entire existence fighting. Fighting nature. Fighting disease. Fighting each other. They had perfected warfare over thousands of years. They had turned killing into an art form. And they had never, in their entire history, surrendered to anyone without making them bleed for it first. The Kratheen Empire was about to learn a lesson that would change the galaxy forever. Some species fight to survive. Humans fight because they don't know how to do anything else. And when you threaten their home, when you threaten their families, when you threaten their freedom, humans become something truly terrifying. The fleet jumped back into normal space at the edge of the Sol system. 3,000 warships appeared in perfect formation, a sight that would have made any civilization surrender immediately. On Earth, alarms began to sound. The Kratheen dropships fell through Earth's atmosphere like burning meteors. 1 million armored warriors descended on 50 cities simultaneously. New York, London, Moscow, Beijing, Mumbai, Tokyo, Paris. Every major population center faced invasion at the same moment. Commander Vector watched from orbit, confident this would end quickly. The broadcast had been sent hours ago demanding immediate surrender. The humans had 6 hours to comply. They sent back a message that made no sense to him: come and take it. In New York City, the first Kratheen warriors stepped out of their landing craft in Times Square. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight. Energy shields shimmered around their bodies. They carried plasma rifles that could melt through concrete. Squad leader Nexar raised his weapon and addressed the humans through a translator device. Lay down your weapons. Surrender peacefully. You cannot win. The humans responded with gunfire. Hundreds of bullets struck Nexar's shield and bounced off harmlessly. He laughed. This was exactly what he expected from primitives. Then something unexpected happened. An American tank rolled around the corner and fired its main cannon at point-blank range. The massive shell hit Nexar's shield with so much force that it overloaded. The explosion killed him and 3 warriors standing nearby. Squad leader down, a Kratheen soldier screamed into his communicator. They killed Nexar. How did they? More gunfire erupted from every direction. Humans fired from windows, from rooftops, from behind overturned cars. Police officers, soldiers, even armed civilians poured bullets into the street. Most shots bounced off the Kratheen shields, but some warriors fell when concentrated fire overwhelmed their defenses. The Kratheen had expected an organized military response. Instead they faced chaos. Everyone was shooting at them. In Moscow, Russian special forces used the city's underground metro tunnels to attack Kratheen patrols from below. Captain Thomas Gregorov led his men through the darkness beneath the streets. They expect us to fight like soldiers, he whispered to his team. We fight like wolves instead. They planted explosives at key locations and waited. When a Kratheen column marched overhead, Gregorov triggered the charges. Entire blocks collapsed into the metro tunnels. Warriors fell into the darkness where Russian soldiers waited with flamethrowers. Fire was one of the few things that could overwhelm energy shields through pure heat. The Kratheen casualties began mounting. 10 dead. Then 50. Then hundreds. Aboard the command ship, Thrace watched the tactical display with growing alarm. Commander, we've lost 3,000 warriors in the first hour. 3,000. Vector couldn't believe it. That's more than we lost on the last 10 planets combined. These humans fight differently, Thrace explained, his voice trembling slightly. They don't form battle lines. They don't have a command structure we can target. Every human seems to be making their own decisions. They hide, they ambush, they attack and disappear. And they're not afraid to die. We've witnessed multiple instances of humans deliberately sacrificing themselves to kill our warriors. In Beijing, a massive Kratheen war machine stomped through the streets. It stood 15 feet tall, armed with multiple plasma cannons, protected by reinforced shields. Chinese tanks fired at it uselessly. Their shells couldn't penetrate its defenses. Then 4 Chinese fighter jets screamed out of the sky. They weren't trying to shoot the war machine. They were diving straight at it. The pilots crashed their aircraft directly into the machine's legs. All 4 pilots died instantly, but the explosions destroyed the war machine's support structure. It toppled and exploded, killing the crew inside. "Sir, we need reinforcements," a Kratheen commander transmitted from the ground. "These humans are insane. They're turning everything into weapons. They crash their own buildings on us. They drive vehicles filled with explosives at our positions. They fight with anything they can find." In London, British soldiers lured a Kratheen patrol into the old Parliament building. When the aliens entered, searching room by room, the British detonated charges they had placed throughout the structure. The entire building collapsed. Sergeant James Mitchell and his team died in the explosion, but so did 50 Kratheen warriors. Vector studied the casualty reports in disbelief. After 6 hours, his estimated time for complete conquest, the humans had killed 20,000 Kratheen warriors. 20,000. The number seemed impossible. "They're adapting," the tactical officer reported. "They've learned that concentrated fire can overload our shields. They're targeting our supply lines. They're using their cities as fortresses. And Commander, some of our warriors are reporting something we've never encountered before." "What?" "Fear. Our soldiers are afraid of the humans." Vector's mandibles clicked in shock. "Kratheen warriors don't feel fear." "They do now, sir. The humans fight in ways we cannot predict. They laugh while dying. They sing songs in the middle of battles. They charge at our warriors with knives when their guns run empty." One warrior reported that a human, bleeding from multiple wounds, smiled at him before detonating an explosive that killed them both. In Tokyo, Kate Tanaka coordinated resistance fighters through the ruined streets. The Kratheen had destroyed much of her city in their initial bombardment, but the survivors refused to flee. They used the rubble as cover, turning every collapsed building into a fortress. "They think destruction will break us," she told her team. "They don't understand. Every person they kill gives us more reason to fight. Every building they destroy gives us more places to hide. They've made Tokyo into our battlefield and we know every inch of it." A Kratheen patrol moved cautiously down the street, checking corners, scanning for threats. They didn't see the trap until it was too late. Tanaka's team triggered mines made from scavenged Kratheen plasma batteries. The explosion killed half the patrol. The survivors tried to retreat but ran into more resistance fighters waiting in ambush. Within minutes, the entire patrol was dead. By the end of the first day, Vector sat in his command chair, staring at reports that made no sense. His 6-hour conquest had turned into a bloody stalemate. The humans had lost 2 million soldiers and civilians. But the Kratheen had lost 20,000 warriors, elite troops that took years to train. "Send 50,000 more warriors to the surface," he ordered. "We will crush them with overwhelming force." But as he gave the command, doubt crept into his mind for the first time in his career. Every other species had broken by now. Every other planet had surrendered when faced with Kratheen might. The humans weren't surrendering. They weren't even slowing down. They were learning, adapting, and fighting harder with every passing hour. From the surface of Earth came a transmission. A human general appeared on screen, blood on his uniform, smoke rising behind him. "Commander Vector," the human said calmly. "You thought you'd conquer us in 6 hours? It's been 6 hours. You're still here. We're still fighting. How many more hours do you think you have? How many more warriors will die today? Tomorrow? Next week? Because I promise you this, we will never stop. You can kill us all, but we'll take every single one of you with us." The transmission ended. Vector stared at the blank screen, feeling something he had never felt before in 200 conquests. He wasn't sure what the feeling was called. But if he had known human words, he would have recognized it. It was fear. 3 months had passed since the Kratheen first landed on Earth. Commander Vector stood in his private quarters aboard the command ship, staring at his reflection in the polished metal wall. His armor was scratched and dented from a human ambush last week. He had been forced to fight on the ground himself after losing 6 commanders to guerrilla attacks. The door opened and Thrace entered, carrying the daily casualty report. His movements were slow, tired. 3 months of constant warfare had exhausted everyone. "Report," Vector said quietly. 260,000 warriors dead, Commander. 400,000 wounded. We control 40% of the planet's surface, but only the empty places. Deserts, oceans, frozen wastelands. Every city remains contested. Every population center is a battle zone. Vector took the report and read it silently. 260,000 dead. In his entire career, spanning 200 conquered worlds, he had lost fewer warriors than he had lost on this one primitive planet. "How are they destroying our ships?" he asked. 38 vessels gone. They were primitives 3 months ago. Thrace's voice was hollow. They learn faster than any species we've encountered, Commander. They've reverse-engineered our plasma weapons from battlefield salvage. Last week, they launched missiles equipped with plasma warheads. Crude technology but effective when they fire hundreds at once. Our shields cannot stop them all. On Earth's surface, in the ruins of what used to be the Sahara Desert, General David Thompson prepared the largest trap in human history. The Kratheen had landed 60,000 warriors in the desert, thinking the empty landscape would be safe. No cities. No civilians. No ambush points. They were wrong. All units in position? Thompson asked through his radio. Confirmed, sir, came the replies from underground bunkers hidden beneath the sand. Soldiers from 20 different nations waited in the darkness. African troops, European forces, American Marines, all united under one purpose. The Kratheen column marched across the dunes in perfect formation. They were disciplined, professional, confident. They had no idea they were walking over thousands of tons of explosives buried in the sand. Thompson watched through binoculars from a safe distance. Wait for it, he whispered. Wait. When the Kratheen reached the center of the kill zone, Thompson gave the signal. Now. The desert exploded. Fire and sand erupted into the sky. Kratheen warriors disappeared in massive fireballs. Those who survived the initial blast found themselves caught in an artificial sandstorm created by human weather satellites. The storm was so thick they couldn't see 3 feet in front of them. Human soldiers emerged from the storm like ghosts. In the blinding sand, plasma weapons were useless. It became a fight with knives, clubs, and bare hands. The humans knew how to fight in sandstorms. They had trained for weeks. The Kratheen did not. By the time the storm cleared 6 hours later, 30,000 Kratheen warriors lay dead in the sand. The survivors fled in panic, reporting back that the desert itself had attacked them. In Tokyo, the city that the Kratheen had destroyed in their first demonstration of power, the ruins became a fortress. Kate Tanaka led resistance fighters through collapsed buildings and shattered streets. Every piece of rubble had a purpose. Every destroyed structure hid fighters. They killed 8 million of us here, she told new recruits. Every time you pull a trigger, remember them. Every time you set a trap, do it for them. This city is their grave and we are their vengeance. Kratheen patrols entered Tokyo and simply disappeared. No bodies were found. No evidence of battle. The warriors just vanished into the ruins, never to return. Other Kratheen began refusing orders to enter the city. They called it the Ghost Place. In the Amazon rainforest, Major Robert Silva made the jungle a nightmare for alien invaders. His fighters included Brazilian soldiers and indigenous tribes who had lived in the forest for centuries. They knew every tree, every river, every animal trail. The Kratheen wore heavy armor that trapped heat. Their thermal sensors couldn't distinguish between humans and the thousands of warm-blooded animals in the jungle. Their energy shields drained quickly in the humidity. Their plasma weapons started fires that filled the air with smoke. Meanwhile, humans struck from everywhere and nowhere. Poison darts from the trees. Traps hidden beneath leaves. Ambushes from the rivers. A Kratheen warrior might kill one human, but 3 more would appear from the shadows. One desperate Kratheen squad leader sent a transmission that spread through the entire fleet, requesting immediate evacuation. We cannot fight them here. They are invisible. They are everywhere. This place is hell. Vector listened to the recording in his quarters. Oh, a human word. His warriors were learning human vocabulary because Kratheen language had no words for what they were experiencing. There was no word for guerrilla warfare. No word for insurgency. No word for the kind of stubborn, vicious resistance that refused to acknowledge defeat. But the worst part wasn't the casualties. It was what the humans were doing to Kratheen psychology. Captured warriors were interviewed, given medical treatment, and then released. They returned to their units traumatized not by torture, but by kindness. The humans showed them mercy while simultaneously slaughtering their comrades without hesitation. They don't make sense, one released prisoner told Vector. They treated my wounds, gave me food, asked about my family. Then they let me go. What? They should have killed me. It's psychological warfare, Thrace explained. They want you to see them as people. It makes fighting harder. It's working, the prisoner admitted. I can't stop thinking about the human doctor who saved my life. She had kind eyes. How do I kill someone like that? The hologram of Emperor Zareth appeared suddenly, his anger filling the command center. 3 months, Commander Vector. You promised me 6 hours. We've lost more warriors on this one planet than on 50 previous conquests combined. Explain yourself. Vector stood at attention, knowing his life hung by a thread. Divine Emperor, these humans are unlike anything we've encountered. They fight without logic. They sacrifice themselves for ideas rather than survival. They value concepts like freedom and revenge more than their own lives. And they learn at an impossible speed. They're primitives with primitive weapons. They were primitives, Vector corrected carefully. Now they're using our own technology against us. They've built their own plasma weapons. They've cracked our shield frequency. They're constructing warships in orbit using captured designs. Divine Emperor, we didn't just invade a primitive world. We gave them a reason to evolve, and they've evolved faster than should be possible. The Emperor's silence was terrifying. Finally he spoke. You have 1 month to finish this conquest, Commander. If you fail, I will send a second fleet 3 times larger. And I will send you home in disgrace to face execution. The transmission ended. Vector turned to his staff, his voice hard. Deploy chemical weapons. Biological warfare. Scorched earth tactics. If we cannot conquer them, we will exterminate them. Commander, Thrace said quietly, what if that makes them fight harder? Vector had no answer. Because deep down he knew the truth. Nothing would make the humans stop. Not threats. Not demonstrations of power. Not even the promise of annihilation. Humans didn't fight to win. They fought because surrender wasn't in their vocabulary. And that made them the most dangerous enemy the Crathene Empire had ever faced. The first human-built plasma cannon fired from deep within the Swiss Alps. The bright blue bolt of energy shot into the sky and struck a Crathene supply ship in low orbit. The alien vessel exploded into 1,000 pieces, raining burning debris across 3 countries. Admiral Michael Grant watched from the command center buried inside a mountain. He smiled for the first time in 4 months. Target destroyed. All batteries opened fire. Across Earth, 40 plasma cannons began firing. The weapons were crude compared to Crathene technology, built from salvaged parts and human innovation, but they worked. 3 more alien ships fell from the sky in flames. Aboard the Eternal Conquest, Vector's command ship, alarm systems screamed warnings throughout the bridge. Commander, we're under attack from the surface. Thrace shouted over the noise. They have plasma weapons. They're firing at the fleet. Vector stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How? They've only had our technology for 4 months. To build weapons, to manufacture them in quantity, to... They're humans, Thrace interrupted. They do impossible things. All ships retreat to high orbit. Move out of range of surface weapons immediately. As the Crathene fleet pulled back, a new threat emerged. Modified human fighter jets launched from hidden underground hangars. The aircraft had been equipped with stolen Crathene shields and plasma missiles. They weren't as fast as alien interceptors, but there were hundreds of them, and their pilots flew with reckless courage. Lieutenant William Drake led a squadron of 12 fighters against a Crathene destroyer. This is Dragon Leader. Target acquired. All units, attack formation. If we don't make it back, make it count. His squadron fired 60 plasma missiles at once, overwhelming the destroyer's shields. The Crathene ship tried to maneuver, tried to return fire, but Drake's fighter crashed directly into the ship's engine section. The destroyer exploded in a massive fireball. 11 pilots returned to base. They mourned Drake while preparing for the next mission. On the ground in Switzerland, General David Thompson prepared for the most important operation of the war. Geneva hosted a major Crathene command center. Intelligence reports confirmed that Commander Vector himself was inside. Taking him alive is the objective, Thompson told the assembled strike force. 5,000 of Earth's best soldiers stood ready. British SAS, American Delta Force, Russian Spetsnaz, French Foreign Legion, Israeli Commandos, Chinese Special Operations, all the best warriors humanity could offer. Captain James Mitchell, who had survived the fall of London, asked the obvious question. And if we can't take him alive, sir? Then we make sure he never leaves, Thompson replied grimly. The attack began at dawn. Artillery turned Geneva's outskirts into a wasteland of craters and fire. Under cover of the bombardment, human soldiers infiltrated through tunnels, sewers and underground parking structures. The Crathene expected a frontal assault. Instead, humans appeared inside their defensive perimeter. Mitchell's team moved through the command center's basement like silent shadows. All units were inside. Going dark. For 3 hours, brutal fighting raged through the building's corridors. Crathene warriors, caught off guard in their own headquarters, fought desperately. Humans used captured plasma weapons, conventional explosives, and in close quarters simple combat knives aimed at armor joints. Mitchell's team reached the command level. Through smoke and chaos, he saw Commander Vector directing his forces from a central console. "Target identified," Mitchell whispered into his radio. "Moving to capture." Vector's personal guards formed a protective wall. Mitchell's team threw flash grenades that exploded with blinding light and deafening noise. The Kratheen had never encountered such weapons. In the confusion, human soldiers tackled the guards. Mitchell himself pressed a captured plasma pistol against Vector's head. "Tell your warriors to stand down, or I paint the walls with your brain," Mitchell said calmly. For the first time in his military career, Commander Vector surrendered. They transported him to a secure facility deep in the Rocky Mountains. General Thompson conducted the interrogation personally, with Dr. Emily Watson translating. "You've killed millions of us," Thompson said. "Give me one reason not to execute you right now." Vector's mandibles clicked in what might have been bitter laughter. "Because you show mercy even to enemies. It's your weakness." "Is it?" Thompson leaned forward. "We've shown mercy to prisoners, yes. But we've also killed 380,000 of your warriors. We've destroyed 43 of your ships. We've driven your fleet into high orbit. Some weakness." "You cannot win," Vector insisted. "The Emperor will send more fleets. Millions of warriors. Thousands of ships. This planet will fall eventually." "Maybe," Thompson admitted. "But how many of you will die first? 10 million? 20 million? We've fought wars that lasted decades. Centuries even. We'll fight you until Earth is nothing but ash and ruins. And then we'll keep fighting in what's left. We don't know how to quit." Vector studied the human general with something approaching respect. "What? You must understand you'll lose eventually. Because some things matter more than survival," Thompson said simply. "Freedom. Dignity. The right to look tyranny in the face and say no. You've conquered 200 worlds, Commander. But those worlds surrendered because they valued living over everything else. Humans value living free. And if we can't have freedom, we'll drag you into hell with us." For the first time, Vector truly understood. These creatures weren't insane. They simply operated on completely different principles. Principles that made them absolutely terrifying. Using information extracted from captured Kratheen, human forces launched coordinated attacks across every continent. The strategy shifted from desperate defense to aggressive offense. In Beijing, Chinese forces used swarm tactics with thousands of small drones carrying plasma charges. Kratheen shields couldn't target them all. In Moscow, Russian forces deployed electromagnetic pulse weapons that disrupted alien communications. Without coordination, the Kratheen fought as isolated units and were destroyed piecemeal. In New York, American forces used the subway system to move troops undetected, striking Kratheen rear positions. Within 2 weeks, humans had reclaimed major cities worldwide. The Kratheen, for the first time in their empire's history, were in full retreat. Aboard the Eternal Conquest, acting Commander Nex faced an impossible decision. "We've lost 430,000 warriors. 62 ships destroyed. Ground forces are requesting evacuation from every position." "The Emperor ordered us to conquer this world," Thrace reminded him. "The Emperor didn't understand what we're facing," Nex replied. "These humans aren't primitives who got lucky. They're warriors who've been perfecting warfare for thousands of years. We're not fighting a primitive species. We're fighting a species that mastered killing before they reached the stars." "Then what do we recommend?" "Full evacuation," Nex said. "We leave. We tell the Emperor to quarantine this system. Let humans have Earth. It's not worth the cost." At the last Kratheen stronghold in Antarctica, human forces launched a final assault. Admiral Grant coordinated the attack personally. "Make them remember," he told his commanders. "Every species in the galaxy needs to know. Earth doesn't surrender. Earth doesn't forgive. And Earth doesn't forget." When the battle ended 18 hours later, the last Kratheen warrior fled Earth. Secretary-General Elizabeth Morris addressed the world from the ruins of New York. "Today the invaders leave our planet. They came expecting easy conquest. They found something else. 70 million of us died, but we remain free. And any who threaten our freedom will face the same fate. Earth stands." Above the planet, the last alien ship vanished into the stars. But everyone knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. 6 months after the Kratheen retreat, Earth looked different from space. The scars of war remained visible, but something new had emerged among the ruins. Massive construction platforms floated in orbit, building vessels that looked nothing like human spacecraft. Sleek warships with plasma cannons and energy shields took shape in the darkness of space. Secretary General Elizabeth Morris stood with Admiral Michael Grant at the newly built Manhattan Defense Platform. Below them, construction crews rebuilt the city using both human and alien technology. Buildings rose with energy shields built into their foundations. Streets contained hidden plasma batteries. Earth was becoming a fortress. How many warships are operational? Morris asked. 12 completed, ma'am. Another 30 under construction. The flagship is called Defiance. Grant pointed to a massive vessel in high orbit. She'll be ready for her first flight test in 2 weeks. A year ago we were fighting for survival, Morris said quietly. Now we're building an interstellar navy. The galaxy pushed us, Grant replied. Now they'll see what happens when you make humans angry. Far across the galaxy on the Kratheen throne world, Emperor Zareth paced before his war council. The holographic display showed Earth bristling with weapons that shouldn't exist on a primitive planet. Explain how primitives not only survived but forced our retreat, the Emperor's voice echoed through the chamber. Thrace stood before the throne, expecting execution. Vector had already been killed for his failure. Divine Emperor, the humans fight for ideas, not just survival. They value freedom and revenge more than their own lives. They would rather destroy themselves than submit. And they learn impossibly fast. They're primitives with primitive weapons. They were primitives, Thrace corrected carefully. Now they have our technology. They're building warships. And they haven't forgotten what we did to them. Divine Emperor, we didn't just fail to conquer Earth. We created an enemy that will come for us. The council chamber fell silent. No one had ever spoken to the Emperor this way. You recommend? Zareth asked coldly. Quarantine the Sol system. Declare it forbidden space. Never approach it again. Humanity isn't worth the cost. The Kratheen Empire does not run from primitives. Then the Empire will face an enemy unlike any other, Thrace said. We conquered 200 worlds because those species surrendered to survive. Humans don't surrender. That difference matters, Your Eminence. Emperor Zareth stared at Earth's image for a long moment. Pride fought with wisdom. Finally he made his decision. Prepare a second invasion fleet. 9,000 ships. 3 times larger than the first. We will finish what we started. Thrace said nothing. There was nothing left to say. On Earth, Dr. Emily Watson led the team that had cracked the faster-than-light drive taken from captured Kratheen shuttles. After 8 months of work they had succeeded. We can travel to other star systems now, she reported to the United Nations Assembly. World leaders from every nation listened carefully. We could reach the nearest star in 3 days. The Kratheen homeworld is 90 days away at maximum speed. President James Patterson leaned forward. 90 days. That's all? Premier William Liu spoke next. We've been invaded. 70 million of us are dead. The question isn't whether we build a fleet. We're already doing that. The question is what we do with it. Revenge? President Thomas Volkov said bluntly. They came to our home. We should visit theirs. Or, Prime Minister Robert Hughes suggested, we use our fleet to reach the 200 worlds they conquered. We offer liberation. We build alliances. We turn their empire against them. General David Thompson stood. I propose something simpler. We let them know we're coming. We broadcast a message that we haven't forgiven or forgotten. We let them wonder when we'll arrive. Let them fear us the way they made us fear them. Morris considered all the options. We rebuild Earth first. That's our priority. But while we rebuild, we also prepare. We build our fleet. We reach out to conquered worlds. We gather intelligence. And when we're ready, we move. The Kratheen taught us the galaxy is dangerous. We'll teach them that humans are dangerous too. The vote was unanimous. Across the galaxy, on the 200 conquered worlds, strange ships began appearing. Human vessels visited planets enslaved by the Kratheen. They brought weapons, technology, and most importantly, hope. The message was always the same. They told us to surrender. We said no. We paid a terrible price, but we're still free. You can be too. Will you fight? On a mining colony called Zirian 7, the first world the Kratheen had conquered before reaching Earth, slaves looked at the human visitors with disbelief. You defeated them? A worker asked Kate Tanaka, who had volunteered for the diplomatic mission. We didn't defeat them, Tanaka corrected. We made them bleed until they left. And we can teach you to do the same. Within weeks, rebellions ignited on a dozen worlds. The Kratheen Empire, which had seemed unstoppable for 1,000 years, suddenly faced organized resistance everywhere. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Yeneth addressed the assembly. Earth has not only survived but achieved faster-than-light capability. They're offering defensive technology to any world threatened by the Kratheen. They're building an alliance. This changes everything, military advisor Grendel said. If humans can stop the Kratheen and help others resist, the Empire's expansion is finished. More than finished, Yeneth replied. The humans are angry. Very angry. And they're teaching others to be angry too. 9 months after the first invasion, sensors detected the second Kratheen fleet entering the Sol system. 9,000 warships appeared in formation. 3 times the size of the first invasion force. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's flagship. Around him, 24 human warships waited. Earth's entire space navy against 9,000 alien vessels. We're outnumbered almost 400 to 1, his tactical officer noted nervously. Then it's a fair fight, Grant replied with a cold smile. Broadcast on all frequencies. Let's give them our answer. His message went out in the Kratheen language. Commander, you've returned. Welcome back. 9 months ago you came here expecting easy conquest. You lost 500,000 warriors and learned that humans don't surrender. Now you return with more ships. Do you really think numbers matter? We've had 9 months to prepare. 9 months to build. 9 months to get angrier. You taught us how to fight among the stars. Now leave peacefully or learn the lesson again. We're ready. Are you? The human fleet powered up weapons. Behind them, orbital defense platforms activated. Hundreds of plasma cannons locked onto targets. Satellites armed with missiles went live. Earth itself had become a weapon. The two fleets faced each other across the void of space. Neither moved. Silence filled the darkness. Then, slowly, impossibly, the Kratheen fleet turned away. 9,000 warships reversed course and jumped to light speed. They fled without firing a single shot. On Earth, people watched in stunned silence. Then the cheering began. It started in one city and spread across the planet. Humanity had faced the Kratheen Empire twice and survived both times. But Admiral Grant didn't celebrate. He knew the truth. This isn't over, he told his crew. They'll be back. Or we'll go to them. This is just the beginning. Morris addressed the world one final time. Today we proved something important. We proved that humans cannot be conquered. We proved that freedom matters more than survival. And we proved that any empire, no matter how powerful, can be resisted. The Kratheen learned this lesson. Let every species in the galaxy learn it too. Earth stands. Earth fights. Earth wins. In the depths of space, heading home in shame, the Kratheen fleet carried a new understanding. They had conquered 200 worlds in a year. Then they reached Earth. And Earth had conquered them instead.